Have you ever felt tired of being kind? Not tired from lifting or walking, tired in a deeper way. The kind of tired that comes from always being the one who shows up, and then realizing that when you need support, the crowd suddenly disappears. If that feeling sounds familiar, let me tell you a story. An old world lesson about generosity, boundaries, and what happens when a good heart gives until there's nothing left. In a small town of old wooden homes, narrow lanes, and simple workshops, there lived a man named Jake. He wasn't wealthy, and he wasn't powerful, but he was known for something far more valuable. He rarely turned people away. If a neighbor needed help repairing a roof before the cold season, Jake came. If a cart snapped an axle on the road, Jake lifted and pushed until it moved again. If someone fell behind after a hard harvest, Jake shared what he could and helped them stand back up. People trusted him because he was steady, and Jake liked being trusted. He believed kindness was something you earned back later, that if he kept giving, one day the world would return it. But life has a way of testing what we believe. One dry evening when the wind ran fast through the streets, Jake was working in his own small workshop. It wasn't grand, just a place with tools, wood shavings, and the quiet pride of something built by his own hands. Then a shout tore through the town. Fire. Jake stepped outside and saw smoke rolling over the neighbor's house and workshop. Flames climbed the wall like they were alive. People were screaming for water, for buckets, for help. And then he heard his name. Jake, please, it's spreading, help us. Jake looked back at his own doorway. He smelled the dry wood, the oil rags, the sawdust inside his shop. He knew how fast fire could travel. He could have secured his own place first. He could have soaked the walls, cleared the yard, protected what was his. But his instincts had been trained in one direction only, toward other people. So he ran. He grabbed buckets, formed lines, threw water until his arms shook. He climbed, pulled burning boards away, stamped out sparks, shouted instructions without even thinking. He fought the neighbor's fire like it was his own. Hours passed. The flames finally weakened. The crowd sighed with relief. Jake turned, breathless, exhausted, and started back toward his workshop. And then he saw it, a glow. Not from the neighbor's yard, from his. While he was saving someone else's roof, embers had leapt across the wind. A spark had found the dry sawdust. A spark caught the oil-soaked rags. His workshop was burning. Jake ran, but it was already too late. The doorframe was hot. The smoke was thick. The roof began to groan as if it were giving up. By the time the fire died, the neighbor's place still stood, scarred, blackened, but standing. Jake's workshop was a skeleton of ash. He stood in the dirt, staring at what used to be his work, his tools, his livelihood. And the pain wasn't only the loss, it was the lesson he couldn't avoid anymore. He had saved someone else's house, while his own became smoke. And for the first time, Jake did what he almost never did. He asked for help. He went to people he had helped for years, the ones he had carried through storms, through hunger, through trouble. He hoped just this once they would carry him back. Some said they were too busy cleaning up their own mess. Some avoided his eyes. Some offered words that sounded kind but changed nothing. I'm sorry, Jake. I wish I could. Not today. Maybe later. Jake walked home with ash on his sleeves and emptiness in his chest. And then, without meaning to, he heard the thing that finally broke the last illusion. Two men stood near the market talking as if he wasn't there. One of them said with a half laugh, "He'll figure it out. He always does." The other shrugged. Why worry? Jake can't say no. Jake froze. Not because the words were loud, because they were true. That night he didn't feel rage. He felt hollow, like a well that had been drawn from too many times. And when a good heart turns hollow, it's a sign something must change. The next morning, tired and confused, Jake walked up the hill above the town. At the top lived an old man the townspeople respected, quiet, wise, the kind of man who spoke rarely, but when he did, people listened. Jake sat beside him and stared at his hands, still stained with soot. After a long silence, he finally spoke. Sir, I try to do right by everyone, but the more I give, the less I have left. I feel emptied out, not from labor, but from people. Why does it feel like my kindness is turning against me? The old man studied Jake for a moment, then led him to a stone well near the edge of the hill. He pointed down into the darkness. Tell me, he said, if you draw water every day and never give the ground time to refill, what happens? Jake answered quietly. The well runs dry. Then no one gets anything. The old man nodded. Exactly. Goodness is water. But you are not an infinite source. He let the words settle, then continued. You think refusing is the same as failing. But there is a difference between helping and abandoning yourself. A man who abandons himself for everyone will eventually have nothing left to offer anyone. Then he gave Jake a rule, simple enough to follow, strong enough to change a life. For the next 10 days, live by the level. Each morning, ask yourself, how full is my well? If the water is high, give freely. If the water is low, restore it first. Sleep, shelter, health, and give only what won't drain you further. Because if you run yourself empty, you won't become a hero. You'll become a warning. Jake walked back down the hill with that rule in his mind, and the town still needed help. Requests came like they always did. Jake, come fix this. Jake, carry that. Jake, help me first. The guilt rose up, but this time Jake didn't obey it. He began answering with balance. I can help after I secure my own place. I can give you an hour, no more, not today. I need rest, or I won't stand tomorrow. Some people frowned, some got offended, some whispered that Jake had become selfish. And then came the twist, the part that proved the lesson was real. The same neighbor whose fire Jake had helped extinguish tried to punish him for changing. When Jake refused a demand, the man went around telling others Jake had abandoned the town. He tried to turn shame into a rope and pull Jake back into obedience. For a moment, Jake felt that old fear, being disliked, being talked about, being alone. Then he remembered the ash. He remembered his workshop burning, and he held his ground. No shouting, no begging, just steady boundaries. And slowly something changed. The people who only loved Jake's usefulness grew colder, but the people who truly respected Jake grew closer. One neighbor quietly brought tools, another left food at his door. A real friend said, I'm sorry we took you for granted, tell me what you need. Jake's well began to rise again, not because everyone became good, but because Jake stopped letting himself be drained. By the end of the 10th day, Jake understood the truth he had missed for years. Kindness without care becomes collapse, and collapse helps no one. If you keep drawing from yourself, without refilling sleep, shelter, health, you don't become a better person. You become an empty one. And an empty well can't give water to anyone. So Jake didn't become cold. He didn't become cruel. He became wise. He learned to help without abandoning himself. He learned that the right people respect your limits, and the wrong people get angry when you stop being easy to use. If you saw yourself in Jake, remember this: goodness is water, but you are not an infinite source. Refill first, then give. And if your level is low, give only what won't break you. If this lesson hit home, share this story with a friend who needs it, and subscribe. More wise, powerful stories are coming.